The village of Santura was small and quiet, surrounded by thick jungle on every side. Houses were made of stone and clay, and most people lived simple lives farming or fishing by the river. But for Aaron, the jungle was never just a wall of trees. It was a mystery, a place that whispered old secrets in the wind. Aaron was 20, strong and curious, with a heart that longed for discovery. His grandfather had once been a traveler and a storyteller. Many nights Aaron had sat by the fire listening to tales of kings, temples, and hidden chambers deep in the jungle. People laughed at those tales, saying they were only stories to amuse a child. But Aaron had always believed there was truth hidden inside them. One hot afternoon, while cleaning the old storeroom of his house, Aaron found a wooden chest covered in dust. It was small, with carvings of animals and strange symbols along the edges. The lock was rusted and weak, so he pried it open with a stone. Inside lay a bundle of cloth, old and fragile, smelling of earth and time. Carefully unwrapping it, he found a flat piece of stone, carved with lines and symbols. It looked like a map. At first, Aaron thought it was nothing more than decoration, but as he traced the grooves with his fingers, he noticed the map matched the curve of the nearby river and the outline of the mountains beyond the jungle. His heart began to race. This was no ordinary carving. It was a guide, pointing to a place hidden where no villager ever went. At the bottom of the stone there was a single mark shaped like a golden sun. His grandfather's words came back to him. The golden chamber of the Maya king lies where the sun rests in the jungle. That night, Aaron could not sleep. He kept staring at the stone in the firelight. He remembered his grandfather's last story told before he passed away. The old man had spoken of a king who hid treasures not for wealth but for wisdom. He said the king locked away the knowledge of the stars in a chamber of gold, far beneath the trees, guarded by time itself. Aaron had thought it was only a tale, but now with the stone map in his hands, he felt the weight of truth. The next morning, he shared his discovery with his two closest friends, Mira and Rohan. Mira was quiet but sharp-eyed, always noticing details others missed. Rohan was broad-shouldered, quick to laugh, and braver than most. Both of them had listened to Arun's grandfather's stories when they were children. "This is dangerous," Mira said as she studied the stone. "The jungle is no simple path. Many have lost their way inside. But look at the mark," Aaron replied, pointing to the golden sun symbol. "This is the same design we saw on the old temple stones near the river." My grandfather was telling the truth. "The chamber is real," Rohan grinned. "If it is real, then we will be the first to see it. Imagine what lies inside. Gold, jewels, or maybe things we have never dreamed of. It is not about treasure," Aaron said firmly. "It is about discovery. My grandfather said the Maya king guarded knowledge, not riches. If that knowledge is still there, it could change the way we see the world." The three of them fell silent. Outside, the jungle sang with birds and insects, as if listening to their decision. Finally, Mira gave a small nod. "If we go, we must be careful. We will need food, water, and tools, and we must promise not to let greed guide us." Aaron smiled with relief. "Then it is decided. Tomorrow we begin." That night, as the village slept, Aaron sat outside under the stars. He held the stone map in his lap and gazed at the constellations above. His grandfather had always said the sky and the earth were mirrors of each other. The stars guided those who dared to follow them. Aaron felt as if the sky itself was calling him forward, urging him to walk into the jungle and claim the legacy of the past. Yet there was also fear. The jungle was dangerous. Wild animals prowled in the shadows, and hidden traps from ancient times could still lie waiting. But Aaron's heart was steady. He was not seeking wealth or glory. He was seeking truth. At dawn, the team gathered quietly. Each carried a small pack with supplies: dried food, water gourds, ropes, and knives for clearing paths. Aaron carried the stone map wrapped in cloth, keeping it close to his chest. As they stepped onto the narrow trail leading into the jungle, the air grew heavy and warm. The trees rose tall, their branches weaving together like a green roof that hid the sky. Strange calls echoed through the mist, and the ground smelled of damp soil and old leaves. Aaron looked back once at the village. Smoke rose gently from the houses, and the river glimmered in the morning light. Then he turned forward. His journey had begun. The golden chamber of the Maya king was waiting, and he would not stop until he found it. The jungle opened before them like a living wall, thick with vines, roots, and the cries of unseen creatures. Aaron led the way, holding the stone map close while Rohan cleared the path with his blade. Mira followed behind, her eyes sharp, scanning the trees and ground for hidden dangers. Each step they took was swallowed by the damp soil, and every sound seemed louder in the silence between the rustling leaves. The sun barely reached them under the canopy. Shafts of light cut through the green roof above, painting golden spots on the ground, but most of the trail was dim and shadowed. Insects hummed near their ears, and the call of monkeys echoed from far away. The air was heavy, almost pressing against their skin. After hours of walking, Aaron stopped to study the stone map again. The lines showed the river bending like a snake, and then disappearing into a darker symbol, almost like a cave. "We are close to the first marker," he said, pointing toward the sound of rushing water. They pushed forward until the trees parted, revealing the wide river. The water was fast and full, slamming against rocks and fallen trunks. Across the river, the jungle looked even wilder, thicker, and darker. Aaron studied the map again, tracing the symbol. "We must cross," he said quietly. Rohan laughed. "Crossing is easy. We swim." He was already preparing to step into the water, but Mira caught his arm. "Look closer," she warned. She pointed at the dark ripples near the center of the river. A shadow moved beneath the surface, long and slow. Something large was swimming just under the current. Rohan froze, his grin fading. "All right," he said, stepping back. "We need another way." They followed the bank until they found an old tree fallen across the water. Its roots clung to the shore and its trunk stretched to the far side. The bark was slick with moss and the current rushed beneath it. Aaron tested it with his foot. It held, but the surface was slippery. "One at a time," he said. "Careful steps." Mira crossed first, steady and focused, never looking down at the rushing water. Aaron followed with the map tied to his chest, his arms spread wide for balance. The tree swayed slightly under his weight, but he made it across. Rohan came last, his heavy steps shaking the trunk. At one point he slipped and almost fell, but Mira grabbed his arm and pulled him to safety. They laughed nervously once they stood on the far side, though their hearts beat fast. Deeper into the jungle they went, following the map. Strange stone markers appeared among the roots, half buried by earth and time. They were shaped like faces, their eyes staring blankly, mouths frozen in silence. Moss and vines covered most of them, but their presence was clear. Someone long ago had placed them to guard the way. "This means we are close," Aaron whispered, touching one of the stone faces. Its surface was cold despite the heat of the day. The trail grew narrower, twisting through thick undergrowth. Soon they found themselves in a clearing where the ground was uneven and broken. Old stone slabs lay scattered, half hidden under roots. It looked like the remains of a forgotten road. "See this," Mira said, kneeling to brush away dirt. Carvings stretched across one of the slabs. They were simple shapes of stars, suns, and lines pointing north, the same style as the map. Excitement filled them, but their joy was cut short when Rohan stepped forward and the ground gave way beneath his foot. He shouted as the soil crumbled, revealing a hidden pit lined with sharp stakes. He pulled back just in time, falling on his side as the trap opened at his feet. They stared into the hole, their hearts racing. The stakes were dark with age, but still sharp. The trap had waited there for centuries, untouched and deadly. Mira's voice trembled. "If you had gone one step farther," Rohan nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead, "then I would not be standing here now." Aaron knelt and studied the pit. "This proves it," he said. "The Maya king protected the path with traps. We must be careful. There will be more." For the rest of the day they moved slower, testing the ground before every step. Twice more they found pits hidden under leaves, and once Mira spotted a stone mechanism tied to vines that would have dropped heavy rocks from above. The jungle was more than wild. It was a maze designed to protect secrets. As the sun began to set, they reached higher ground where the trees thinned. From there they could see far across the jungle. A ridge of stone rose in the distance, covered in vines but shining faintly in the last light of day. It looked like the entrance to something vast. Aaron held the map against the fading light and saw that the ridge matched the shape carved near the golden sun symbol. His heart filled with both fear and wonder. "That is our next step," he said. "The chamber lies beyond that ridge." They set up camp for the night under the cover of a large tree. The jungle hummed around them with the calls of insects and distant animals. As the fire burned low, Arun sat awake, staring at the ridge in the distance. The journey was only beginning, yet already the jungle had tested them. What lay beyond the ridge would be even more dangerous, but he knew they could not turn back. The golden chamber was waiting, and its secrets were calling to them. The night passed slowly in the jungle. The cries of distant animals echoed in the darkness, and the fire burned low, keeping them warm and safe. Aaron stayed awake longer than the others, staring toward the ridge that waited in the distance. He felt the weight of the map pressing against his chest. It was more than just a guide. It was a key, and it was pulling him forward. When dawn came, golden light spread through the trees. Birds filled the air with calls, and the mist clung to the ground like a silver blanket. Mira woke first, quietly checking their supplies. Rohan stretched, rubbing his neck and grumbling about sleeping on roots. Aaron smiled at his friend's complaints, but his mind was already on the path ahead. They packed quickly and began the climb toward the ridge. The trail grew steep, twisting around rocks and thick roots. The air became cooler as they rose, though the jungle still buzzed with life. Sweat ran down their faces, but their eyes stayed sharp. Each of them knew the traps of the jungle were never far away. By midday, they reached the base of the ridge. Massive stones stacked like steps rose above them, half covered by vines and moss. The sight stole their breath. This was no simple hill of nature. It was built. The Maya had shaped this ridge into a structure, though time had hidden its true form. "Look at these stones," Mira whispered, brushing away vines. "They are carved, fitted together without gaps. This is not just a ridge. It is a wall." Aaron traced his fingers over the smooth surface. The stone felt cold, almost alive, as if holding the memory of those who had touched it long ago. The carvings on the wall showed lines of stars, suns, and strange circles that did not match any planet he knew. "These are not only pictures of the earth," Aaron said. "They are maps of the sky." The three of them moved slowly along the wall, studying the carvings. Some showed men with feathered crowns standing beside tall figures who looked different, almost otherworldly. The figures were slender, with elongated heads and arms that reached down to their knees. They were carved with great care, as if they were honored visitors. Rohan frowned. "These do not look like men. Who are they?" "Maybe gods," Mira suggested softly. "The Maya often drew their gods as different beings." Aaron shook his head. "Or maybe they were not gods but teachers. My grandfather always said the chamber held the knowledge of the stars. Maybe these carvings are showing us where that knowledge came from." They stopped at a wide stone panel in the center of the ridge. It showed a great king sitting on a throne of gold. Above him, the sky was filled with shapes that looked like ships sailing among the stars. One ship was larger than the rest, carved with careful detail, its bottom glowing with lines like fire. From the ship, beams stretched downward to the earth, where the king reached out his hand. Mira stepped closer, her eyes wide. "This is not only art, it is a story. The king met someone from the sky." Rohan crossed his arms, unsure. How could that be?
How could people from the sky come to Earth?
Aaron's voice was steady. "If they came, the Maya king would have guarded their gift. That is why the chamber was built, not to keep treasure, but to protect what was given." The thought filled them with wonder and unease. The golden chamber was no longer just a mystery of gold. It might be a vault holding secrets far greater than they imagined. They climbed higher along the ridge, following narrow paths that wound around the stone wall. At the top, they found a platform that looked out across the jungle. From there, the view was endless, green waves of trees stretching as far as the eye could see. Yet the platform itself held their attention. It was covered with more carvings, but these were unlike the others. Circles were etched into the stone, overlapping in patterns that matched constellations in the night sky. Mira traced one with her finger. "This is the Hunter's Belt," she said, pointing to 3 aligned circles. "And here is the 7 Sisters. These are star maps." Aaron knelt, his heart pounding. "The Maya king left maps of the stars on this ridge." "But why?" Rohan tilted his head. "To guide us where? The sky is endless." Aaron studied the carvings closely. In the center of the star map, one circle was larger than the rest. It was surrounded by rays like the sun, but inside it was a smaller mark. The same golden sun symbol carved into the mapstone he carried. He held the stone beside the carving. The marks matched perfectly. "This is it," Aaron whispered. "The golden chamber lies in the direction of this star. The king wanted us to follow both earth and sky." The 3 of them sat in silence, staring at the carvings. The air was still, as if the jungle itself waited for them to understand. The ridge was not only a wall or a temple, it was a message, a bridge between earth and the stars. As the sun lowered, they decided to camp on the platform. That night, when the stars appeared, Aaron compared them with the carvings on the stone. The same constellations shone above their heads, glittering like jewels in the black sky. It was as if the Maya king himself was guiding them forward. Mira spoke softly as the fire flickered. If this chamber holds the knowledge of the stars, then it is greater than any treasure. But it is also more dangerous. If the wrong people find it, they may use it for harm. Aaron nodded. That is why we must go. Not for wealth, but to protect it. My grandfather said the chamber would test us. This is only the beginning. The jungle sang its night song around them, but none of them felt afraid. They had seen the signs of the past, and those signs pointed forward. The golden chamber was real, and its secret was far greater than they had ever dreamed. The fire burned low on the platform as the night stretched on. Aaron sat with the stone map in his lap, comparing its markings with the stars above. Mira rested against a pack, her eyes half closed but still alert, while Rohan had already fallen into a deep sleep. The jungle around them was alive with the sounds of insects, owls, and rustling leaves, yet something in the air felt heavier than before, as if the ridge itself was watching them. At dawn, the three packed their things and prepared to move on. Aaron led them toward a narrow path that curved down the far side of the ridge. The map pointed that way, and beyond the vines, the jungle seemed darker, the trees taller, their roots twisting like giant snakes. The path was uneven and scattered with fallen branches. They moved carefully, their eyes sharp for hidden traps. The carvings they had seen the day before stayed in their minds. The tall figures, the ships among the stars, the king reaching out to the heavens. Each step reminded them that they were walking the same trail the Maya king once guarded. After an hour of walking, they reached a clearing where the ground was flat and covered with moss. A stone well stood at the center, cracked and overgrown with vines. The well seemed out of place, as if it had been left behind by time itself. Aaron stepped closer, brushing away the vines. Strange markings ran along the stones, worn but still visible. This well is part of the old path, Aaron said. Maybe it was used as a marker. Before anyone could answer, a voice came from the shadows of the trees. It is more than a marker. It is a warning. The three of them froze. Rohan reached for his blade, but Aaron raised a hand to stop him. From the edge of the clearing, an old man stepped forward. His hair was long and silver, his skin lined with age, yet his eyes were sharp and steady. He wore simple cloth, faded with time, and in his hand he held a wooden staff carved with symbols like those on the map. The stranger stopped near the well, leaning on his staff. You should not be here, he said softly. This path was not made for wanderers. It was sealed by the king himself. Aaron swallowed hard. Who are you? I am a guardian, the man replied. My family has lived near this ridge for generations, watching those who come close. Most turn back. Few are foolish enough to continue. Rohan stepped forward, his voice firm. We are not here for gold. We came because of this. He showed the man the stone map. It belonged to Arun's grandfather. The guardian's eyes narrowed as he studied the map. For a long moment he was silent. Then he sighed. So the stories were passed down. I had hoped they would fade. Aaron's heart beat fast. My grandfather told me about the golden chamber. He said it holds knowledge, not treasure. We only want to understand. The guardian shook his head. Understand? Do you know what it means to touch knowledge that was not meant for this time? The king was given a gift, but he also carried a burden. He swore an oath to protect what was left by visitors from the sky. That oath has been guarded for centuries, and for good reason. Mira's voice was calm. If the gift is so dangerous, why let us find the map at all? Why did Aaron's grandfather keep it? The old man looked at Aaron. Because sometimes the chamber calls to those who carry a true heart. Perhaps your grandfather believed you would not seek it for greed. But you must be sure. Once you step beyond this place, there is no turning back. Aaron felt a weight on his shoulders. The jungle seemed to grow still around them, waiting for his answer. We do not seek wealth. We seek truth. If the chamber holds wisdom, then hiding it forever may not be right. Humanity must know where it came from. The guardian studied him for a long time, then nodded slowly. You speak with honesty. Perhaps you are meant to see what lies within. But I warn you, what you find will test your heart. The chamber does not give without asking something in return. He raised his staff and pointed to the deeper path beyond the clearing. Follow this trail. It will take you to the mouth of the chamber. But remember my words. Do not take more than you are ready to carry. With that, the old man turned and walked back into the jungle. disappearing among the trees as silently as he had come. The three friends stood in silence, the weight of his warning heavy in their minds. Rohan finally broke the quiet.
He tries to frighten us.
But we have come this far. We cannot stop now. Mira's eyes were thoughtful. He was not trying to frighten us. He was trying to prepare us. Aaron looked down at the map, then at the shadowed trail ahead. His voice was steady. We go forward, but we go with care. If this chamber is a gift, we must prove worthy of it. They tightened their packs and stepped onto the deeper path. The jungle seemed darker now, the air thicker, the silence deeper. Each step carried them closer to the heart of the mystery. And though fear lingered, so did determination. The golden chamber of the Maya king was near, and nothing could turn them back. The path the guardian had shown them grew darker with each step. The trees pressed closer together, their roots curling like snakes across the ground. Thick vines hung low, forcing Arun, Mira, and Rohan to push them aside as they walked. The air smelled damp, heavy with the scent of moss and old stone. It felt as though the jungle itself knew they were nearing something hidden. For hours they moved forward, their footsteps the only sound besides the steady hum of insects. Arun held the stone map in one hand, checking it often. The golden sun symbol carved into the stone lined up with their path, guiding them deeper. At last they reached a cliff face covered in vines. From a distance it looked like nothing more than rock, but up close Aaron saw straight lines carved into the surface. He and Rohan pulled away the vines, revealing a massive stone door. It was set into the cliff, its surface covered in carvings of suns, stars, and a great king standing tall. "This is it," Arun whispered. "The entrance." Rohan stepped forward, pressing his hands against the door. It did not move. "It is sealed." Mira pointed to the carvings near the bottom. "Wait, look at this." She brushed away dirt and moss to reveal a small hollow in the shape of a circle. Aaron's heart raced. He reached into his pack and pulled out the stone map. The golden sun symbol was carved at the bottom of the map, raised like a seal. Carefully he placed it into the hollow. The ground trembled. Slowly, with the sound of grinding stone, the massive door began to shift. Dust fell from above as the stone slid aside, revealing a dark passage leading into the cliff. A faint golden glow flickered within as if the chamber itself was breathing light after centuries of silence. The three of them stood frozen, their hearts pounding. Then Arun stepped forward. "This is what we came for." Inside, the passage walls were lined with smooth stone, polished until they shone faintly in the glow. Strange symbols ran along the walls, glowing softly like embers. None of them had seen anything like it. The light was not from fire, yet it burned steady and warm. They followed the passage until it opened into a vast chamber. Their breaths caught at the sight. The walls were covered in golden plates, each etched with carvings of the stars, the sun, and strange figures that seemed to walk among both. The plates reflected the glow, filling the chamber with soft light. At the center of the room stood a tall pedestal of stone. Upon it rested a crystal sphere the size of a man's head. It pulsed faintly, sending waves of light across the chamber. The air felt charged, alive, as if the sphere was more than stone or crystal. Rohan's voice was hushed. "I have never seen anything like this." Mira walked slowly around the chamber, her eyes wide. "These plates tell a story," she said, touching the carvings. "Look here. The king sits with those same tall figures we saw on the ridge carvings. They are showing him the stars, teaching him." Aaron approached the pedestal, his chest tight with wonder and fear. The sphere seemed to hum softly, though no sound truly came from it. He reached out his hand, hesitated, then touched it. The chamber came alive. Light burst from the sphere, filling the air with shimmering images. Stars appeared above them, moving slowly as if the ceiling had become the night sky. Constellations formed, glowing brightly, then shifted into patterns none of them recognized. Great ships of light crossed the stars, their shapes clear and sharp, unlike anything made by human hands. Aaron staggered back, his heart racing. The vision showed the earth from above, blue and green against the black of space. He saw the Maya king standing at the shore, lifting his hands toward a ship of fire that descended from the sky. Then he saw the king sealing the chamber, locking the sphere inside, his face solemn as if he understood the weight of the gift. The light dimmed, fading back into the sphere. The chamber was silent again. None of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Mira whispered, "This is not treasure. This is history. This is proof that the Maya king guarded knowledge given from the stars." Rohan looked shaken. Why was it hidden? Why not share it? Aaron answered quietly. Because humanity was not ready. Perhaps the king knew that too much knowledge could destroy rather than build. That is why he sealed it away. They stood in awe, the golden walls glowing softly around them. Aaron felt a deep respect for the king who had carried such a burden. He understood now why the guardian had warned them. This was no simple discovery. This was a test. Mira placed a hand on the golden wall. We cannot take this with us. But we can remember. We can tell the story. Aaron nodded. Yes, but we must also protect it just as the king did. If the wrong people find this chamber, they may not honor it. They may use it for greed. The three of them agreed silently. The chamber was a gift, but it was also a responsibility. Before leaving, Aaron touched the sphere one last time. It pulsed gently under his hand as if acknowledging him. Then they turned and walked back through the passage. Behind them, the great stone door slid closed, sealing the chamber once more. As they stepped into the daylight, the jungle seemed brighter, the air lighter. The golden chamber was real, and they had seen it. Yet its secret would remain hidden, waiting for a time when humanity was ready to walk among the stars. The jungle felt different after the golden chamber. The sun filtered through the trees, casting long shadows, but Arun, Mira, and Rohan moved as if in a dream. Each step they took was heavy with thought. The visions from the crystal sphere stayed in Arun's mind, playing again and again like a silent story. They stopped at a small clearing near a river to rest. Rohan drank water and leaned back against a tree, his eyes distant. I keep seeing the ships in the sky, he said finally. They were real, Aaron, not stories. The king was shown things we cannot even imagine. Mira nodded, her fingers tracing patterns in the dirt. It was more than ships. The stars, the constellations, the way they moved, it was knowledge. Knowledge that humanity has lost. The king did not guard gold. He guarded wisdom. Aaron looked at the stone map in his hands. The symbols on the walls, the carvings on the ridge, they were all teaching tools. The king understood the stars. He understood technology and the universe, and he hid it so it would not be used recklessly. They sat quietly for a moment, the river flowing steadily beside them. The jungle was alive but calm. It felt like the world was waiting for them to understand what they had seen. Do you think we can use it? Rohan asked. Even a little? Could we share it with others? Aaron shook his head. Not yet. The visions showed us things far beyond our understanding. If we tried to explain it now, most would not believe us, and some might misuse it. The king must have known this. That is why the chamber was sealed. Mira looked at Arun, her eyes determined. Then what do? We cannot take the sphere with us. We cannot copy it. But we can learn. We can understand as much as we can, and pass that knowledge carefully in ways that help rather than harm. Aaron nodded. We are students of the stars now. The king trusted us to see his gift. It is our responsibility to honor that trust. They continued along the path deeper into the jungle, still following the stone map. Every now and then, Aaron would pause to point out carvings they had missed on their first journey, symbols of planets, the sun, and the moon. Each marking was like a letter in a book that humanity had forgotten. As the afternoon sun sank lower, they came to another ridge. This one was smaller, but the rocks were covered in carvings of people studying the stars, looking through primitive instruments and pointing to the sky. Aaron traced one figure with his finger. These are teachers, he said. The king learned from the visitors, and then he taught others. He was preserving knowledge for the future. Rohan whistled softly. It is incredible. All this hidden in the jungle. And we are the first to see it in centuries. Mira's eyes were serious. We have to be careful. If anyone else finds these carvings or the chamber, they could use it for power, not wisdom. The king was wise. We must be careful too. As they moved forward, Aaron began to see patterns in the carvings. They were like instructions. How to read the stars, how to use the light of the sphere to guide people, how to predict movements of the planets. The knowledge was not just about navigation or astronomy. It was about understanding humanity's place in the universe. The group camped again as night fell. Aaron looked up at the stars, recalling the vision from the sphere. The ships and the glowing figures seemed closer now, not just visions but messages. He felt a deep connection with the Maya king and those visitors from the sky. Do you think the king wanted us to reach this point? Mira asked softly, watching the constellations. I think so, Aaron said. He left the signs, the map, the carvings, everything. He wanted someone with a pure heart and a curious mind to find it. We are learning and we are ready to take that knowledge forward carefully. Rohan lay back, staring at the dark canopy. It is strange, he said. We came looking for a golden chamber, but it is not gold we found. It is something greater, something that can change how we see ourselves. Aaron smiled quietly. That is why it was hidden. The world is not ready for gold that can destroy it. But knowledge, the right kind of knowledge, can build a future. And that is what the king wanted to protect. The fire flickered and died down. The jungle sang its night song around them, but the three friends felt no fear. They understood now that the golden chamber was not only a place but a lesson. The stars were guiding them, teaching them patience, care, and respect. The journey was not over, but they were ready to continue, carrying the king's gift safely in their hearts and minds. As they drifted to sleep, Aaron held the stone map close. The visions of the stars and the ships remained in his mind, clear and steady. He knew that the chamber had tested them and they had passed. The final step would come soon, and they would face it together, ready to honor the trust of a king who lived centuries ago. The sun rose slowly over the jungle, painting the leaves with gold and green. Arun, Mira, and Rohan packed their camp quietly, each of them deep in thought. The golden chamber, the crystal sphere, and the visions of the stars were still fresh in their minds. They knew the journey ahead would be the most important decision of their lives. The path back to the ridge of the golden chamber was silent, the jungle humming softly around them. The memories of what they had seen, the ships, the constellations, and the wisdom of the Maya king made them cautious. Aaron held the stone map in his hand. He traced the golden sun symbol, remembering the guardian's warning. The choice they faced was not simple. When they reached the cliff face where the massive stone door had slid open, they paused. The golden light from inside the chamber was faint but visible. Aaron stepped closer, feeling the hum of energy from within. Mira placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do we go in again?" she asked softly. "Or do we leave it sealed?" Rohan shook his head. "We have seen it. We know what is there. If we open it again, we could take more knowledge than we are ready for. The king hid it for a reason." Aaron studied the chamber. He remembered the visions of the stars, the ships, and the wisdom of the Maya king. He thought of humanity, of the people who might misuse such knowledge. Yet he also thought of what good it could do if used with care and respect. After a long pause, Aaron spoke. "We have seen enough to understand. We know the truth and we have learned its lesson. The golden chamber is not ours to keep. The knowledge belongs to the world when it is ready, not yet. The king trusted us to protect it, and that is what we will do." Mira nodded, relief in her eyes. "Then we leave it as it is, safe, hidden, protected." Rohan stepped forward and pressed his hand against the stone door. Slowly they watched as the massive stone began to slide back into place. Dust fell from above and the golden light faded as the chamber sealed itself once more. The jungle seemed to breathe as if approving their choice. They stayed for a moment, standing before the solid stone, feeling the weight of history and responsibility. Aaron placed the stone map back in his pack. It would guide them if they ever returned, but for now it was enough to remember what they had learned. As they turned to leave, the jungle welcomed them back. Birds sang from the trees, and sunlight streamed through the leaves. The danger of the traps and hidden paths seemed less threatening now. They had faced the tests of the chamber and the jungle, and they had passed. The journey back was slower. They moved with care, retracing their steps through the jungle. Every stone, every carving, and every pit reminded them of the path they had walked. Aaron felt a quiet pride. They had not taken gold or treasures, but they carried something far greater, understanding, wisdom, and respect for knowledge. At the edge of the jungle, the familiar sights of the village appeared. Smoke rose from chimneys and the river glittered in the sunlight. Villagers went about their daily work, unaware of the adventure that had taken place deep in the jungle. Arun, Mira, and Rohan smiled, feeling a connection between the past and the present. That evening they gathered by the river. Aaron took out the stone map one last time. He traced the lines of the river, the mountains, and the golden sun symbol. "We have seen it all," he said. "The king's chamber, the stars, the knowledge. But it is not ours to share recklessly. We have learned the lesson he wanted us to learn." Mira looked up at the stars just as they had on the first night after the chamber. "The stars guided us here and they will guide us forward. We know we are part of something larger now." Rohan nodded. "We are better for having seen it." And maybe one day when the world is ready, this knowledge will help people rise higher than ever before. Aaron smiled. The golden chamber remains a mystery to most. But for us it is a reminder. Humanity can grow, can learn, and can reach for the stars, but only with care, respect, and courage. That is the choice the king wanted us to make. The three friends sat quietly, watching the river reflect the light of the setting sun. They had ventured deep into the jungle, faced unknown dangers, and discovered truths that few had ever imagined. They had seen the golden chamber and understood its power, and they had made the right choice, leaving the chamber sealed, carrying the knowledge in their hearts, and honoring the trust of a king who lived centuries ago. As night fell, the stars appeared once more, shining clearly above the village and the jungle beyond. Aaron looked up, feeling a sense of peace. The golden chamber would wait for the time when humanity was ready. Until then, its secrets were safe, its wisdom preserved, and its story lived on through those who had been worthy to witness it. They rose together, walking back toward the village. The journey had ended, but its lessons would stay with them forever. The golden chamber of the Maya king had been discovered, understood, and protected, and humanity's place among the stars remained a promise for the future.